I must admit Haken are a band that have seriously impressed me of late, especially this one. Let's get into it, shall we? Haken are a band that have certainly piqued my interest, and 2013's The Mountain created an avalanche effect for this band, conjuring up a small yet fervent amount of reverence amongst fans that have only grown in stature over the past decade. What's interesting, the 70s influenced prog ethos of The Mountain, although not abandoned, has certainly been deviated from with subsequent albums. For example, the 80s pastiche of Affinity and the more modern progressive metal leanings of Vector and Virus, which are two albums that I think polarised fans. However, there's an argument to be made that Fauna is their strongest album yet. I think the band have described it as kind of like a sonic rainforest, a befitting metaphor, I think. It's certainly an animal-themed album with lots of references to beasties and flappy things. Rhinoceroses, elephants, nightingale. I think there's even a reference to a lesser spotted cock wobbler as well on this album. And with the symbolic lyricism of the songs, one feels themselves immersed in this oral jungle. Narratively, I think there's a lot going on. All music said, the band celebrates the glory and resilience of nature while condemning humanity's attempts to conquer and destroy it. This sort of ecoism is nothing new, of course, all clinging to the coattails of that rabid doom pixie. One could argue that the dual meaning of many of the songs on this album certainly adds to the thematic weight and value. I quite like the idea of animals in the jungle being used as a metaphor. It was done very effectively by Jethro Tull in 1975 with their War Child album. But this album certainly at its best when the narrative and the instrumentation collide effectively, providing what they call metaphorical instrumentation, case being the opening track Taurus. With the deceptive cadence of its opening riff, it's absolutely stomping, very much like the migratory stampede it's supposed to evoke. Nightingale commences with a nice piano bit as well, a very jazz-inflected melody. For it all commingles in this wonderful explosive chorus and vocal bridge, which borrows unashamedly from Gentle Giant. Not the first time Haken have borrowed from this classic prog band. My favourite track on this is the 11-minute Elephants Never Forget, with a real earworm of a hook. That is even before we get to the tenderness expressed in the absolutely beautiful Beneath the White Rainbow, with its polytonal riffs introducing an angular, almost subliminal melody. Richard Henschel and Charles Griffith's guitar playing is absolutely sublime on this album, but it's all beautifully underpinned by the jaw-dropping performances of drummer Ray Hearn, whose metric fuckery is just absolutely staggering. Fauna, of course, marks the return of original keyboardist Peter Jones, who makes a wonderful contribution to this record. I'm particularly fond of his playing on Nightingale, as well as the queasy circus synths on Elephants Never Forget. How appropriate. Jones's adventurous sonic palette adds immeasurably, I think, to Haken's progressive metal on this album. He's certainly not as interested in atmospheric as the previous Ivory Tinkler, but what we do get is a very riff-centred, I think, and he loves to experiment with sort of intricate chromatics. Love Bite is an interesting one as it explores sort of 1980s new wave terrain. We come back to my favourite track, which is Elephants Never Forget. It's actually very sweet-like in terms of its stacking of cadences, tonalities, modes, textures and dynamics, with all those sort of solo spots flowing into each other beautifully, seamlessly. And the staccato vocal section is very reminiscent of Gentle Giant's Free Hand. Again, another allusion to that great prog band. Eyes of Ebony is a fascinating track with staccato guitar. And I love the vocals as well. The vocals provide quite an interesting juxtaposition as the white rhino's near extinction is compared or juxtaposed with the death of Henschel's father in this wonderful, explored, extended metaphor. I have to say this album is quite dazzling in its intricate weave of prog and metal. And I'm seriously impressed with the artwork, which is supposed to be absolutely replete with lots and lots of Easter eggs. I think out of the albums, because all the tracks are referenced here as well, I think. This is, of course, the deluxe edition. I think there might be a media book edition as well, but this is the version I plumbed for. Anyway, Fauna by Haken. I love this album. Anyway, thank you for listening to me spout all this stuff about this album. I'll leave you with my closing salvo, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and of course that you keep listening.